And welcome back to Coral Gables now. Fairchild is home to a huge array of rare and exotic plants and flowers. But soon, it's going to be home to a team of scientists and students. The garden recently broke ground on a new science village. Let's take a look. The new science village will feature for the first time an on-site building that houses Fairchild's conservation team, who are currently housed in an off-site facility. The vision for the Science Village is to eventually help support 10 PhD scientists, 20 PhD students, and 40 undergraduate research students. The Science Village will provide labs and full-sized interactive classrooms for students and also collaborate with Florida International University staff members. The 25,000 square foot building will include a new conservatory, and the garden cafe will be expanded into the complex. Now, as you can see, the complex will be built with several environmentally green features in the hopes that it will be LEED certified. Now, in other news, have you been out lately? Then you've probably noticed that we have a bunch of large, hot pink visitors in town. Rodolfo Roman has that story and others on City News.
Thanks, David. More than likely, if you have traveled in Coral Gables, you have spotted these giant pink snails that are right behind me. Now, these snails are more than just an artistic piece. In fact, they deliver a very important message. 21 oversized pink snails are calling Coral Gables home. The pink snails are made of recyclable materials. They are part of the global sensation known as the Regeneration Art Project, a public art series designed to inspire community-wide conversation. The artwork also brings a green message about the importance of recycling and its environmental impact. The snails are courtesy of the International Artistic Collective Cracking Art Group and the Galleria Ca de Oro from Italy, which opened in December, a new gallery space in Coral Gables. The snails will be on display for 2 months. Coral Gables firefighters traded the red truck for forks and knives. City firefighters competed in the NASCAR's first ever hot and spicy firefighter cook-off. The team of Coral Gables firefighters were tasked with creating dishes using Coca-Cola as a special ingredient. The team of Coral Gables firefighters were tasked with creating dishes using Coca-Cola as a special ingredient. Team Coral Gables won $500, which was donated to the Coral Gables Fire Benevolent Association. They also won a set of pots and pans for the fire station. And finally, several nations will be celebrated in Coral Gables. Flags from 50 different nations will be waving along Ponce de Leon Boulevard. The Coral Gables Chamber of Commerce created the Flags on Ponce program. The effort is in partnership with the city to recognize the significant number of consulates and multinational businesses located in Coral Gables. The flags will be waving until June, so come outside and check them out. Well, that's all the news I have for you. For Coral Gables Now, Rodolfo Roman.
Thanks, Rodolfo. Those snails are some interesting neighbors that we have, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy them. Now, coming up on the show, we offer advice on how to protect yourself from email scams. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Coral Gables Now. We've all heard how you need to protect your mail and credit cards from fraudsters, but did you know that emails can put your identity at risk too? Here to discuss email scams is Gary Opper, managing member of Levy Opper LLC. Gary, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, David.
Now we have a very, very interesting topic today, email scams. Now we touched a little bit last month about it, but now we're going to get right into it. And why are there so many emails that are these fraudulent emails? Why are there so many?
Well, for good people like you and me, assuming we're good people, the emails is a very convenient too. It's powerful, it's convenient. Well, it's also powerful and convenient for fraudsters. What the convenience is, you don't have to have a gun. You don't have to visit people. You don't have to write them. You don't have to telephone them. It's very inexpensive. And you can send out a massive amount of emails, and you only need a few, very few percentage points of people to respond in order to make money.
Right, so it's kind of like phishing, just throw them out there and see what you get. Now, what are the different types of email fraud?
Well, there's a lot of different types. I think on the FBI website, they've broken it down to like 20 different types of
20?
Fraud. Yeah. And
wow.
I think the most common, I think, is advance fee fraud, lottery fraud, phishing, bogus business opportunities, financial fraud, and diet and health fraud.
Now, what are some of those? You just listed off a bunch. There are different categories. Now, there's sometimes you'll see from FDIC or FBI or things like that. Like what kind of emails are those? How?
Well, I get the ones from the IRS, and but you get them from official government agencies, and you also can get them from eBay, PayPal's, or whatever. But the ones that come in from the IRS, well, purported to be the IRS, they tell you that a payment that you sent in has been rejected, and so you have to give personal information. When you give that personal information, you're going to give a password, you're going to give an account number, and then whoever that person really behind that fake IRS email gets it. The FDIC is an interesting one. It's funny, we talk about it, but it's not funny if you're the victim of
Of course, yeah.
But the purported to be the FDIC will send you an email, and it says, it's very ominous. It says you violated the Patriot Act, and because you violated the Patriot Act, you no longer are insured. Your accounts are no longer FDIC insured. Well, that sounds pretty bad. And so they want you to respond, and the way you respond is by giving personal information. And of course,
Right.
once they have that personal information, they can start hacking, getting into. They don't even have to hack because they have your information. They can get into your account and start raiding your funds.
So pretty much they're going to come up with any excuse as long as they get your personal information. That is what
Yeah.
they're after.
And yes, and the emails look official. I mean, I get emails from Chase, which I don't have an account with. They just throw them out and say your account. We need your account number or whatever. And obviously, Chase is a large company, Wells Fargo. So when you send out a lot of emails, GoDaddy, there's a fake ones coming out, PayPal's, eBay, just whatever you think of. There's a TD Ameritrade, and it looks like the official TD Ameritrade logo and everything, and it has a place for you to put in your account number.
Oh, wow.
And your password, and once you do, they have it. But a lot of times you can check if you look up in the right hand in the URL number.
Yeah.
If it has an S, if it's it'll say HTTPS.
Mhm.
Those are secure sites. Typically, fraudsters don't want to pay for that, or they can't get that security.
So that's one way you could definitely
Yeah.
tell.
So you can that is a way you can tell. But that's obviously not foolproof, because I'm sure some fraudster has convinced one of these security agencies that secures these accounts, has broken into it.
Right. And how it used to be before, I mean, sometimes people still get them. Used to be through the fax machine. Maybe you'll get a letter from someone needs money to get their prince out of, out of prison. Yeah. But now it's all going to email. So has this been around since the internet really started booming?
Well, it's been around since the internet started. In fact, the one you referred to is, there's the Nigerian fraud, which in Nigeria it's referred to as 419, which is the penal code for violating the Internet Act.
Mm.
But basically, it's someone who's they're in trouble, they're in jail, or they have money somewhere, and the only way that they're going to be able to access all this money is to get out of jail or get out of the country, and by the person who's the victim paying a certain amount of money, they'll be able to get that person out of jail or out of the country. And you give a little bit of money, and then they keep building it up and building a confidence, and they say, well, that amount of money didn't count, and then you'll send more money. But that's been around for a long time. In fact, it goes back to the Renaissance. There was the scam back then. It was called the Spanish prisoner or the Turkish prisoner, and England and France were involved in a lot of wars against Spain and what have you, and the Turks, obviously there was a lot of wars with Northern Europe against the Turkey and the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. So the scam went that somebody was in prison in Spain or somebody was in prison in Turkey, and you needed to pay their ransom to get them out of prison. Well, obviously there was nobody in prison. There
Right.
was no wealthy person, and that person who was going to give you all this money for saving his life didn't even exist.
Wow. So this has been around for a very, very long
Very
time.
In fact, there was a movie there in 1997, I think it was, with Steve Martin. It was called The Spanish Prisoner, which was based on a novel, and the novel was actually a short story, or it was a short story actually. It was a short story that was printed in Cosmopolitan in, I think it was April of 1910.
Wow.
So
this has definitely been
it's just-
around.
it's there.
Same thing, just different medium now.
Yeah, yeah.
And whatever the next medium, I'm sure they're going to jump on it.
Well, a lot of times criminals are the first to adapt to new media. I mean, back in the 20s, the gangsters, they adapted to cars. They adapted to the increased firepower of guns.
Wow.
So they're, unfortunately, might be on the cutting edge.
Now, how can people avoid or limit their chances of being a victim from this?
Well, again, in a lot of times we talk each month, you need to be very suspicious of certain things. You need to be skeptical. You know, if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Some of the things you can do that are how to protect your computer is you should have a firewall. Make sure that it's kept up to date. You should have a spam filter. You should, if an email comes in and it's an unknown party, you know, you can always hit the delete button. If it's someone who needs to contact you, they'll contact you again or make call and say what happened. But you can delete unknown or suspicious emails. If you have an attachment that you've opened the file and you see an attachment and you don't know why they would send an attachment, don't open the attachment.
Right.
You need to have up-to-date antivirus, up-to-date spyware, up-to-date adware. And again, if you have an email and you're looking at it, you know, think about the likelihood that you actually won a lottery,
right?
Or that, you know, that Chase would be calling you about personal information, you know. And again, if it's suspicious, just delete it.
Right.
You know,
of course.
Hit the button.
And of course, like you said, I mean, you may get a thing from Chase and you don't even have an account, so that's easy. But let's say you have Bank of America. If you really have a question, then maybe you should contact them.
Well, yeah, Bank of America is not, when they're not going to send you an email. I mean, 99, and obviously Bank of America is aware of the email problems and everyone else's, but Bank of America, the FDIC, the IRS, eBay, PayPal's, they're not going to send you an email and ask you for your personal information because they know your personal information.
Right.
You know, and if they do, and you think it's legitimate, you can always call. Now, don't use the number that's in the email because obviously that might have been sent by a fraudster.
Of course.
You want to go back to their official email, their official website, and find their phone number and give them a call.
Right. So just always make sure, and you know.
Yeah. And you know, people are a little more less suspicious when it comes to email. If someone were to call you and ask for information, you clearly wouldn't give it. But somehow people let their guard down because of the familiarity. People will give way too much information in Facebook accounts and things like that. Yeah,
of course. So you got to really make sure your information is limited, and you know you keep all that personal information to yourself because people will try to go after it.
Yes.
Next month, what are we going to be talking about?
Next month we're going to talk about how to get a job.
Oh, okay. So it's a little more more uplifting. Yeah, a little more upbeat.
Yes.
So, I mean, really briefly, just what are some of the important things now? Obviously, there's a lot of people trying to get jobs now.
Right.
So there's some. Would you say some major points that
you
should do?
Well, one of the things that people need to do is obviously, since so many people applying for jobs and so many people are applying for the job that you might want, you have to somehow differentiate yourself from the crowd. You know, you have to make yourself different in a way that they want to hire you. And also you want to, stand out at the same time. So when a lot of times people email their resumes everywhere, but you want to take that next step. You know, if it's a local company, you may want to show up, dress appropriately and show up and say, I just want to come and introduce myself. Mm-hmm. Well, you've differentiated yourself from everyone else who hasn't shown up.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to talk about that definitely next month. Gary, thank you again for coming out and giving us great information as usual.
Thank you, David.
All right. And that does it for Coral Gables Now. Thanks for watching Coral Gables Television. And make sure to make it out to the Farmers Market in front of City Hall. It's going on every Saturday until March 26th. We'll see you next month.